Supernatural Season 12, Episode 17, The British Invasion. Really great episode, honestly, a surprising end, but they did some really great stuff in this one, of course. Sadly, the best stuff was with the character that we will no longer get to see, at least for a while. You know, it's Supernatural, they always find some way to, for an episode, get somebody back in or something like that. But Mick Davies in this episode was amazing. Like, they did a really great job with him, and I mentioned for the last review, they did a great job in that episode because they developed that character where he is a guy, not only, you know, in that episode we see kind of going through, you know, some of the infield sort of training, but he was going through the process of learning what it means to kind of be human a little bit. In that last one, it was like, yeah, he followed orders, he killed the young girl who's going to turn into a werewolf. That was one thing. And then we see this episode is like, oh, he doesn't just follow the rules. He's like been indoctrinated since he was a young child, where he killed one of his best friends because it's like, well, it's the code. He was like seriously indoctrinated to do whatever the code said. And it was just insane. I was like, wow, this is way further than what I thought it was before, where it's just like, oh, you know, they do this thing, or, you know, they learn, they grow up to be this certain way, so they're very strict about it. I was like, no, I think they're actually indoctrinated at this point. It may not be everyone's case, but I feel like that's kind of what they showed us. I mean, I guess considering what we got in the flashbacks where he was dealing with his friend, sometimes, you know, maybe they try to do indoctrination and that sort of deal, and it works at some points, and sometimes it doesn't. It just works for different people at different points. So it didn't work for his friend when he was young, and eventually for Davies, it stopped working for him because he's like, this sucks. Like, the code was, of course, for Eileen when she ends up shooting Rollins or whatever, you know, first in his class and nobody cared about. When she ends up killing him by accident, it's like, I have to kill her. Like, she killed him in the letters. It's the code. And it was like, that's insane. It was an accident. They're dealing with, you know, one of the strongest supernatural creatures they've ever faced. And it was an accident. And she, you know, and once again, I mentioned this last time they used the code, but I was like, every time the code is fired, it's slow motion. But, you know, she does it. I'm like, how is this going to play out? Because for a second, I thought maybe something was going to happen to Eileen, because I'm like, well, they, of course, won't do it where they succeed in killing, you know, Dagon. Like, it would just be too early, because then it would be like, well, they have the child of Lucfier. It's like, well, this just, I knew it couldn't work. It would have been too good if it worked. But I just didn't see how it was going to play out, because I'm like, okay, well, the bull's going straight for her. She, you know, demons don't really have super speed. They can kind of teleport, but they don't exactly have super speed. It's a bit of a difference. So I'm like, this might actually happen. And then we actually see her kind of when she teleports, which they did twice in this. They've never actually shown it, but they did it like with the lightning, where she literally just popped up. I was like, wow, we never see them actually show that, where the characters literally pop up in the scene. They always, you know, cut to the other characters and then they cut back and the person's gone. But we actually show, you know, they actually showed her like pop up in this episode. I was like, that's the first time in 12 seasons they've actually done that, where the person is not there and then they actually pop up. Outside of, you know, not kind of ghosts, but like demons when they teleport. So I was like, wow, that was kind of cool. And then we actually see her fade away, because that's her, you know, taking Kelly and they teleport away. I was like, wow, they showed it in two different ways, and like we never see that ever. So it was really crazy that they did it. But I really love that. And then of course, like I said, when she kind of just fades away, the bullet flies right past her and it hits this guy, and it hits him like right in the heart, and he's dead. Like, that's all there is for him. And I was just like, wow, that was a crazy segment. That was like the first really crazy thing that happened. Or I guess it's not really even the first, because we knew what happened. I think it was the first flashback where they show that Davies did kill that other kid. So I was like, I guess that was the first crazy thing. But it was nuts. And, you know, we get to see them at Kendrick's, which really is like a Hogwarts. I mean, they even had robes and everything. They had little Gryffindor patches. But I was like, it is kind of like Hogwarts. They weren't kidding. But it was just nuts going through this whole episode. And we see how he's trying to kind of officially recruit Sam and Dean. And he gets a call from, I want to say her name was Dr. Kess or something like that. And she's like the headmistress and stuff, who totally reminded me of the woman from Harry Potter, like the evil mistress from that. So that's all I thought. As soon as I saw her, I was like, she almost has the same hairstyle too. She's not a lot of pink, but the hair and being British. That was the first thing I thought of too, which is funny. And I saw some stuff on Twitter where people were like, I don't see the difference between these two characters. So I thought that was pretty funny. But, you know, it's just tough. You know, she's not at the very top. There are other elders, as she mentions in this episode, and that's why she actually left London. So they did some interesting stuff in this episode for sure. But it was crazy. You know, we go through these processes. We get to see them trying to figure out, you know, how do we find Kelly? We see that, you know, Dagon is, of course, protecting Kelly and protecting the baby. She's hiding things from Kelly until the end of the episode where she's like, yeah, those pains you were having, that's just going to get worse. And she flat out tells her at the end, like, you're dying. Like, you will die when this baby is born. You can love it now or whatever. Doesn't really matter. You will be dead soon once the baby is born. I was like, okay. You know, she was kind of hiding that from her for a while, but now that she's revealed it at the end, if Kelly somehow manages to escape, you know, a second time, we'll see what happens. Or if she's tricked, you know, she technically didn't leave, you know, to escape. She left for the baby. So we'll see what happens. You know, if she does end up being, you know, end up either escaping or, you know, something does happen where they're able to actually get her again. We'll see what happens there if she changes her mind. But at this point, she's still on the side of, it's my baby, you know, not so much the devil baby, just mine. So that's still where she is for now. But we'll see how she feels next time she, you know, kind of has a big role in it. But I like what they did with her character and what they kind of introduced with Dagon, is how she's kind of lying to her in this one. And this is when they officially reveal that she will die. I never really considered whether or not she would die, but they talk about it a lot, like, yeah, she'll last as long as she needs to. And then, you know, she even tells Kelly that at the end. So it's like, okay, this could alter her perspective on what this child is. Like, it's going to rip her apart as it's being born. Will that change her perspective? You know, so I'm looking forward to how they handle that. Of course, the other story in this episode was Crowley and Lucifer doing everything that he can to escape the little compound area that they're in. So he's able to get someone to basically take away all the wards, but he's still in danger, I guess. So I don't know if he can't be hurt as much, or if, you know, or what exactly it means, because it's like, okay, all the wards and stuff were taken off the vessel, or from within the vessel. I was like, okay, but the actual big security system thing is still there, because it's still a part of the body. So like the extra layers aren't there, but like the main point of Crowley has control over you, that stuff is still there. So ultimately he's still kind of stuck, but he's got a little bit more power, so we'll see how that ends up playing out. And of course, Crowley's being dumb right now. He's being super cocky. Like, he didn't realize anything that was happening with Lucifer, where he's licking the floor and he's like, yo, this is what you want. And he just believes it wholeheartedly. And I guess it's because he's like, I finally got my big break. Like, I finally, not only am I in charge, but I took charge back, you know, from the devil. So he's like on cloud 9, and he just doesn't realize that Lucifer is still doing his thing. And I thought maybe he would during the scene where Lucifer is talking to everybody. He's like, you know, if you don't obey, you know, the one true king, and then he flashes his eyes and stuff. I was like, maybe Crowley's just letting him do this, and maybe he'll just like snap his finger and, you know, break his legs or something and be like, okay, because I'm not an idiot, I know he's trying to play me, so I'm going to actually let you guys know what's happening here. But that never happened. And I was like, man, I mean, I don't think he'll die, but I'm like, he's going to screw up. You know, Lucifer's going to escape. And we're getting closer to that point where, you know, we kind of thought he was going to escape before, and then it was kind of the cool reveal that Crowley still had his power. But now he's getting closer to that, you know, actual escape, and we'll see how it plays out with this weird, you know, kind of in between, because he can escape, but Crowley does have control over him still. He has, you know, even his inside people betraying Crowley, which is like, it's almost normal at this point, people betraying Crowley, so I don't know. But I'm just very curious to see how this is going to play out, because it's a very odd line that they're writing at this point, where Crowley still has control, but technically Lucifer could easily escape if he wants to. Crowley could, I don't know if he could bring him back, or if he could just hurt him from a distance, you know, that sort of deal. But we'll see how it all plays out, so I am definitely looking forward to that. Of course, you know, I barely mentioned it, but Eileen makes a return in this episode, which is pretty awesome. They did some stuff in this episode that I don't recall them doing in the first one, but they certainly put a lot of moments in there between her and Sam. I'm like, you know, if they ended up together after all this, that wouldn't be too bad. So, you know, there are definitely a lot of scenes in there where they're either looking at each other or smiling, or, you know, the ending was a little different when she hugs him for emotional support, because she killed a dude by accident, and it was an actual human being, so that would have an effect on anyone really in this show. But it was really good. I was like, okay, they seem to be teasing something that may or may not go somewhere, but I was like, that would be cool if they settled down and it was, you know, someone that Sam could actually settle down with, and it was an actual hunter. Not someone that we hate, like in the beginning where it was the woman from the Men of Letters. I think a lot of people thought that they were just going to instantly end up together. Speaking of ending up together, God, I get Mary and Tetch, that sucked. I was like, ugh. Like, I was just disgusted when I saw that. I was like, oh, just all the people. Like, just, if he were like an okay guy, it would be alright. You know, it'd still be weird. You know, I mean, mothers have sex too, but it's not like she's actually my mom. But still, it would be different if he wasn't like a crappy person, but we know like it's just gonna build up. And it was even worse. Like that was before the ending of this episode, where it was like, oh, he's a secret douchebag, where he goes behind them and they kill a bunch of innocent people or anyone who even remotely has control over their abilities and stuff. It's like, nope, they're monsters, so we kill them. That's still hidden from all the characters, or you know, at least from the Winchesters. So I was like, oh, he's a secret douchebag. She shouldn't have slept with him. And then, you know, that in itself was just like, oh, that sucks. And then we get to the end, of course, with Mick, where he's talking to, I'm just going to call her the headmistress. And I was wrong. I mentioned that before, that I wouldn't have been surprised if they actually called her that. They actually don't. They actually call her by her actual name. So I was wrong on that, but that would have been really funny. But he's talking to her at the end, and she's talking about, like, you know, you let a Knight of Hell escape, or a Princess of Hell escape, as all alongside the Nephilim, Lucifer's, you know, Nephilim unborn child. You let a woman escape who actually killed one of the men alive. You kind of screwed up quite a bit. And he's trying to explain, and she's like, no, I don't want to listen to that. And he has this great speech where he basically kind of breaks the indoctrination, where he's like, hey, we don't do things perfectly, you know, and I'm trying to do the right thing. Like, I'm not going to go and kill this woman because she made a mistake while we were in an insanely dangerous situation. I'm not going to let that happen. So, you know, he's giving this great speech and stuff. He's like, I'm going to do the right thing. Boom, he just gets shot in the back of the head. And it was so bad. And I was just like, wow, that was really messed up. I rarely tweet about the episodes I'm watching, but that was just like a what the F moment. Just like, I cannot believe that just happened. And it was just nothing. It was like, boom, he's gone. It was like, he wasn't following the rules. I do. And I would love to know how they're going to explain this in the next episode with him just being gone. Like, are they going to lie and just say, yeah, we sent him back to London because he was screwing up? Or, you know, they probably won't even care to lie, honestly. But it was just a crazy ending. I couldn't believe that they actually did that. And it shows how little they truly care. It was like, you know, you aren't following the rules to kill really an innocent person for making a mistake in a really insane situation. So you aren't following the rules to kill that person, so we're just going to kill you. And it's just like, wow, that really sucks. And this character, who was really growing on me, you know, from the last episode into this one, was just like, wow, they're doing a lot of great development. Gone. So that really sucked. Really sad ending there, because I was like, wow, this is a character I'm really starting to appreciate, and just what they're doing developmentally speaking was just really great for a character that always followed the rules, didn't even have a lot of field experience, and they were just constantly building things up and having him go through these processes. I wish it was like an extra episode. We had like a little 3-episode arc sort of thing with him, just to have a little bit more. But man, they did a great job with his character. Really sucks to see him go, but Mick Davies, he turned from like another douchebag to a pretty awesome guy in the end. And so, you know, it sucks the way that things ended, and that the fact that they ended so quickly is really sucky. But you know, I definitely love what they did with him in this episode. It was great to see Eileen. We got to hear Cass's voice, which was great. Still no Cass in there, but we got a cool voicemail moment where he's like, make your voice a male. I did love that. So we got to at least hear Castiel. I would like to think that he's going to show up in the next episode. I mentioned last time, it was like, you know, they had Mick in there and he was wearing like the tan coat, and I was like, it made me think of Cass's trench coat. So maybe, you know, as crappy as it is, maybe with him being gone, they're like, okay, let's finally bring Cass back in. And so, you know, Cass comes from heaven. And also, that's a big story arc with him being, you know, accepted into heaven again and them kind of coexisting now. That's a pretty big deal. And that, I think, is a pretty important story that they've been kind of holding off for quite a long time. Because that's a really big deal that he's been accepted, you know, back into heaven. And it's been, even, you know, with the actual span of the show, it's been like 2 weeks since that happened, or something crazy. Because even in this episode, they span like 3 days. Because the woman mentions the mission that they went on, where they lost Dagon, was like 2 days ago. But by the time we get to the actual end of the episode, they skip like, there's like a total of like 3 or 4 days within just this one episode. So it's been weeks since that's happened, even within the span of the actual series. It's like, man, he's just been gone, absent. They don't know where he is or what he's doing. So I really do hope that we get him back next week's episode. But Crazy way to end this. Very curious how things are going to play out now that this is taking place, and the plan is to basically kill all the Winchesters, including Mary. I don't think that'll be that big of a deal. I know they had their moment. Even Mary was the one to say, like, you're not reading too much into this, right? So we'll see what happens there. If Ketch is really, or Tetch, I swear I always forget if it's Tetch or Ketch. But we'll see if he's actually, gonna end up having feelings for Mary. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, considering what he did, I don't think he'd be falling in love with someone just for sleeping with them. So, personally speaking, I think he'll just try to kill them all, but this should be nuts. I'm curious, considering we have very few characters with the middle letters. We only have, we had like 3. I don't know if they'll end up bringing back the woman from the beginning of the season, just because I would assume they're going to end up killing off the current 2 main characters with the middle letters that are here, that are meant to be in the States. I'm assuming both of them will die, and maybe that's how they bring her back, or maybe they'll bring her back to help take out the Winchesters. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but I'm like, I don't know if that's kind of all said and done, because they reference her quite a bit, and of course they get rid of one of very few characters that are actually relevant to the middle letter storyline, and kind of replace him with another main villain. So we'll see what happens there, but looking forward to where we go. Of course, we got the whole Lucfier thing going on, and I'm just excited to see how they get all the stories together by the season finale. Like, are the men of letters going to stick around for the next season? Will the baby be born by the end of this season, and that's what we have to deal with? But the men of letters kind of takes a back seat, because I think right now it's the men of letters and then it's the Nephilim, because it's like, well, they're building up to the baby being born, because I'm sure they won't stop it. So that's kind of where it's at, where the men of letters are on top. And I think by the time we get to the next season, it'll still be both those big issues, but it'll just be reversed, because the Nephilim will be born. And maybe they'll do like the fast growing thing that pretty much every supernatural thing ever does, where it's like, oh, it's a baby, it's just been born, and then like a week later it's like, oh, it's a teenager. I mean, heck, they just did it before. Like, they just did it with Amara, so they'll probably do it again. But I feel like that's where we're headed. I don't think either of these big issues are going to be completely wiped out. I could easily be wrong. They might actually find a way to get rid of the men of letters, but considering how big this organization is, even if they get rid of the 2 characters we know of, or all 3 of the characters that we're familiar with right now, they could still easily remain in the entire rest of the series. It's just this constant issue that keeps coming up for hunters, all across the state. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think this was a really good episode. Sad ending. It's really crazy to have a character where you like, just like all the men of letters, I just don't like these characters. They just, it's not bad writing. It's just they wrote characters that suck. They're just bad people. And then this character finally develops and he changes, and he's the one that's like, I want to actually do the right thing, and he dies. And that was a really sad way to end this character, but great development for him. Great to see Eileen come in, maybe teasing some stuff in the future with her and Sam. I wouldn't hate that. A little bit extra stuff with Dagon, and also, of course, the Lucfier Crowley stuff. So overall, I think it was a really fun episode. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts were. And of course, I have to ask how you guys feel about what they did with Davies at the end of this episode, because it was a very interesting path. Some people may have still hated him the whole way through, but I think they did such good development with him. I can't hate him. By the time he got to the end, it was like, man, he's suffering. Because like I said, personally, based off of what I was seeing in this episode, it went way beyond the last one and the other episodes where it's like, this is our code, we're supposed to do this, this, and this. And then this episode was like, the beginning of the episode started off with, yeah, some of you get here by pure talent and some just old-fashioned hard work. Kill each other and we'll see what happens. Like, that was them as preteens. They were probably not even 13 yet, 12, 13 area. And he has to kill one of his friends. And it's just like, wow, that's indoctrination. So it went way beyond just, oh, we have a code. It became something much more as to what they do to these people that grow up to become men of letters. So it really changed. He gave a lot to the story because of, this episode, even more than the last. The last one I felt was more personal. This was like, although I guess technically this was even more personal because we actually got the flashbacks, but it just added so much to the overall story of what the men of letters truly are and what they're like, how they raise people. Saved him as a young child off the streets pretty much, and then turned him into this, which he wasn't really the greatest person. So it's just crazy how they did it. But I thought it was bad. It sucked to see him go. A great ending. I thought it was, a great surprise and stuff. I literally was like, or like I had my hand over my mouth for sure, but sucks to see him go, but they definitely did a great job with the character. Like I said, we'd love to know what you guys thought about his death. If you care, don't care, happy, sad. We'd love to know what you thought about that. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.